Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I leave the library and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is still a gloomy day here in suburban Chicago. I'm on my way home from the library now, and I'm recording my second episode of the day. But I'm sure I'll space this out a day or two between when I record it and when you get it. What do you think of that? I was trying to think about what I should do as I think about recording episodes for you. It is almost the end of the season. If my count is right, this is going to be episode 495, which means I have 5 more to record this season. I'll record 3 next week and 2 during the week between Christmas and New Year's, and then that'll be the end of the season. Just as a warning, if you're new here, I take a break between the beginning of January and the end of January, or I usually start in late January, because I teach a class in January that goes every day, and it's pretty exhausting, and I don't have time to edit episodes during that time. So there's no podcast during that time. And so that's what's going on with that. But I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was Board Game Barrage, and they were talking about what it is that they like about cooperative games. And I'm like, I wonder if I've done Brendan's top co-op games, because I talk about cooperative games a lot and I play quite a few of them, but I don't know if I've ever talked about cooperative games that I enjoy. And I searched co-op and cooperative games. I even searched the names of a couple that I could think of, and I did not find in the archive of 493 other episodes of Pick Up and Deliver any episodes about cooperative games. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Well, that led me to think, okay, so what could I do about cooperative games? I thought about, maybe I'll just list my favorite cooperative games. I'm like, well, I do a lot of listing. I've done 4 different episodes, I think, or 3 different episodes about my top 50 games. So I'm not sure that just listing my favorite cooperative games really makes sense. I thought about doing a category by category cooperative, like my favorite puzzle game, my favorite story-based game, like that. But still, I feel like I'm a predictable animal. You, the regular listener, if you've listened to 100 episodes or something, you probably can predict what my favorites are in each of those categories, at least close enough for government work. So one never likes to produce an episode that is clearly evident by its premise what it's going to say. So what I decided to do instead is I've pulled up the Boardgamegeek mechanism page for cooperative games, and I told it to rank in order of highest ranked cooperative game to lowest ranked. There are 10,057 games, so I have approximately 1/2 of a second per game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to work my way down the list. And for each one, I'm going to, if I haven't played it, I'll tell you I haven't played it, and talk about maybe where it fits, how much I'm aware of it, and where it fits. If it is a game I've played before, I'll call out one thing I really like about it, and one thing that is maybe a negative, or I could see as being a negative for people as they consider trying it. So this is Brendan's whirlwind review of a game mechanism, in this case, cooperative games. If this is an episode format that you find interesting, let me know, because there are literally dozens of game mechanics listed on Boardgamegeek. I say mechanics because that's how they're listed there. I prefer the word mechanism, but whatever. There are literally dozens listed on Boardgamegeek, and if the audience likes this format, I may do it again with a different mechanism. Part of what I like about it is that it's a low prep activity, because I just have to open up the page on Boardgamegeek. I don't have to think too far ahead. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. The number 1 ranked game on Boardgamegeek is Gloomhaven. Now, y'all know I love Gloomhaven. My favorite thing about it, I'm going to say, is the card mechanism. If you haven't played it, you have a hand of cards in Gloomhaven, and each card has 4 things you can do with it. You can use it for its special top action, its special bottom action, its generic top action, which is fight, attack for 2, or its generic bottom action, which is move 2. And then each turn, you're going to play 2 cards. 1 card, and you're going to use the top action or the generic top action, and 1 card and use the bottom action or the generic bottom action. Then those cards go in your discard pile, and you pick from your remaining cards 2 more for your next turn. Once you get to the point where you want to take a rest, or you have to take a rest, then you pick up your cards and you randomly shuffle the cards that you had played and discard one into your lost pile, and those cards you never get back. So as the game goes along, you have fewer and fewer cards with which to act. If you ever get to a turn where you can't act, game over, you're out. If that happens to everybody, that's one of the ways you lose. It's an excellent mechanism that provides endless iteration and variation. Really good. There's a reason Gloomhaven is rated the #1 game of all time. If you're going to say what is the downside to Gloomhaven, what is the thing that makes people say maybe Gloomhaven isn't for me, I would say the biggest thing is the daunting. It is a steep learning curve and a huge commitment. When you buy Gloomhaven, you're paying, I think, $140 is the current retail. You're getting a giant box full of stuff, but if you just want to try it, that's a big commitment and a long time that you're going to spend on that box. So it can be very intimidating to some people. Even like there are board game reviewers that I know, people who do podcasts and online shows, who are so intimidated by their Gloomhaven, they haven't even punched it yet, for example. And it's been out for 4 years now. That's my take on Gloomhaven. Okay, next one. Number 3 ranked board game of all time, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Obviously, this is also one of my favorites. What do I like best about it? The reveal. Pandemic Legacy still, to my mind, the best Legacy game ever made. Although I haven't played Clank Legacy yet, and everybody says it's great. That's maybe one of the things to do in the coming year. But in Pandemic Legacy, you are opening boxes, you're solving problems, you're finding out stuff, and you're really having a fun time doing it. The story is interesting, the puzzle is interesting, the game takes between 12 and 24 plays, which is about the right amount. It's a commitment, but not an outrageous commitment. A group that's dedicated could play 2 games an evening and play it in a month. They could finish it, or maybe 2 months if they did once a week, 2 games an evening. So really quite a delightful game. Nothing to complain about here. If I were going to complain, I would say Pandemic is Pandemic. If you don't like the system, you don't like the kind of puzzle that it's having you solve, if you don't like the way that sometimes the deck can just screw you over, maybe it's not the game for you. I think it is amazing, but it's not for everybody. That's Pandemic Legacy Season 1. All right, we're on to rank number 7. We're jumping our way down the top list, and this is Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Everything I said about what makes Gloomhaven great makes Jaws of the Lion great. Some people even like it better because it's got this spiral-bound book with the maps rather than the map tiles. The downside of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is it's shorter, I guess. The other positive is that it's much easier to get into. It comes with the tutorial mode. The first few missions you play are super easy like they teach you how to play the game. From that perspective, that's even better than the other Gloomhaven. I'm not sure what other downside I would say about it. It's excellent, and you should try it if you can. That's Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Rank number 10 on Boardgamegeek is Spirit Island. We've encountered the first game on this list that I don't have. I have played it though. I like Spirit Island quite a bit. There's an interesting puzzle. It is basically like extra complicated Pandemic is how it feels to me. You are dealing with a variety of incoming plagues. You have a variety of very interesting player powers that you can use to fight off those incoming plagues. I like what the game does a lot, but it is very complicated. I've never had a chance to play it more than once in a row, and so I haven't had a chance to really learn the systems well enough that I was ever able to stop trying to think about how the game works in order to really learn to crack the puzzle. So that part's a little bit of a disappointment, but if you're somebody who likes heavier games, if you like co-ops, Spirit Island is definitely something worth trying, although I don't have a copy myself. The next one on the Boardgamegeek list, rank number 18, is Nemesis from 2018. This is the first one on this list I have not played. I do know a couple of people at my game club that have it, and I think some of my friends at XYZ Game Labs have a copy, but I haven't gotten to try it yet. This looks like a really fun game, and I definitely would like to try it. I know some people think it's really swingy, and there is a hidden traitor mechanism, which maybe puts in the question whether it is really a cooperative game, if it can turn out that someone's working against you, but I would like to try it nonetheless. That's Nemesis. Next up, Arkham Horror, the card game. Obviously, this is one of my favorites. I believe that I own all of the main stuff issued for it, with the exception of the very newest campaign. My game store hasn't gotten it in yet, but they will eventually. And so this is a game with endless possibilities of character creation and really interesting dynamics in terms of figuring out how to do well in the game. It is also very hard and really punishing, which isn't my favorite, but as I've mentioned before, my wife and I play with a kind of moderated rule set that makes it much easier and much more fun for us. So Arkham Horror, the card game, the high point is really interesting stories, really interesting deck building. Downside, very complicated. This is not an easy one to get into. And if you're playing it, rules as written, very punishing, really hard game to succeed at. So that's Arkham Horror, the card game. Next up, we have Mage Knight board game. I would not call Mage Knight cooperative. It is competitive. I mean, there may be a cooperative mode, but no thank you. Marvel Champions, the card game. They talk about this being built on the Arkham Horror engine, which sounds neat. You don't have to deck build. Instead, you get your character deck, and that's what you get. You are allowed to deck build. There are rules for it, but it's not generally encouraged, or it's not the main way that's suggested to play. I haven't tried it myself. It looks neat, but I'm already knee deep in one Arkham Horror living card game, or one Fantasy Flight living card game. I don't need a second one. Too Many Bones. This is a fantasy adventure game. It seems to appeal to a lot of the same people as who like Gloomhaven. It's supposed to be really interesting puzzle to solve. Lots of neat characters to play with. Interesting components. Really cool custom dice. Really expensive game. And just for that, I wasn't in on it. And I don't know. I don't like the... I don't really like the title. Just doesn't do much for me. It's weird. I've heard it's very good though, and if I get a chance to play it, I will. That's Too Many Bones. The next up, Crew Mission Deep Sea. This is a really interesting trick-taking game in which you are working together to solve problems. I have played all the way through one campaign of it on Board Game Arena, and that was really fun. I do have the original The Crew as a deck, like in board game form or card game form, and that's pretty good, but I haven't really had a chance to do much more with it than play it a couple times. But I have played all the way through both sets of both The Crew and Crew Mission Deep Sea on Board Game Arena with Ray and Rich. So plus side, really good cooperative game if you know and like trick taking. Downside, it's a trick taking game. If you haven't played trick taking games, it's a learning curve to learn how to play them well. And I'm not sure I would want to try to teach someone using The Crew, although I've heard people say it's a good way to do it. Next up, ranked number 46, Pandemic Legacy Season 2. This is the first time I'm really going to disagree. I thought Pandemic Legacy Season 2 was very good. Do I think it's the 46th best board game of all time? No, I do not. I feel like a lot of the ratings for this game probably were applied before it came out, and people certainly liked it when it came out, but a lot of the reviews I heard of it were, nah, it's not Pandemic Season 1. So I'm really surprised that it's as high as it is, except that I wonder if there are people who just rated it a 9 or 10 based on their excitement to play it and then never adjusted their ratings back. Because I feel like this game has been much less well received than some of the others. Nonetheless, high points, it is a new take on the Pandemic system with it feels like a Pandemic game, but the rules are different enough that you're doing different things, which I think is nice. I don't like when a new version of a game just reiterates what the old version of the game did. I like when they change it up. The downside, it's just not as good as Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I'm not sure all the changes were better. They were different, yes. Were they better? I don't know. So that's the downside of that. Next one, rank 47, Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition. I have played this one a couple times. It is a really neat, it's not a dungeon crawler game because you're going through like H.P. Lovecraft stories or the Arkham Files locations. You know, you're in Dunwich, you're in the Dreams of the Witch house, you're in a variety of places where the kinds of things that we're talking about go, and that's pretty interesting. The game is app-driven, which some people really like, some people don't like. I think it's fun, but I don't think it's fun enough to buy it myself. I do really like the adventures that it does, but it's also very, like, some of your turns are super limited. Like, I think you get 2 actions on a turn or maybe 3, and moving is an action. So there are turns where, like, it's 10 minutes between turns, and then once your turn, like, I move these 3 spaces. My turn's over, so that part is not my favorite. And the app-driven stuff works really well, but you are interacting with an app the whole time. It does not feel, though, like you're just playing an app the way that, what's it called? Chronicles of Crime does, which feels too app-focused for my taste. So, but that's Mansions of Madness, really interesting Arkham Files game, fun, collaborative storytelling game about fighting tentacle monsters. The Crew, Quest for Planet 9, this is the first Crew game. It is ranked number 50 on the top on the Board Game Geek list of games. I mean, it's almost as good as Deep Sea Adventure, as the Quest, as the Crew Deep Sea something. But the Deep Sea one is better because the system by which you get assigned your missions is a little smoother in the Deep Sea one. So if you're trying to pick between the two, the stories are inconsequential. It's about doing a cooperative trick-taking game. And I think the Crew Deep Sea one, the newer one, is a better game. So go for that. Oh, and then here, ranked number 56, Pandemic Legacy Season 0. The people who like Pandemic Legacy really like it. All 3 games ranked in the top 60, because this is number 56. We haven't finished this one yet. We're about 2/3 of the way through. I would like to finish it, but the rest of the group seems to have cooled on it. I think with the new year, I'm going to push for us to finish it again just so we can finish it, because I want to be done with it and find out where the story goes. That's Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Ranked number 62 is a game, and this will be the last one I'm going to talk about today. The game that I have not gotten to play and probably won't, but who knows. This is Kingdom Death Monster. Kingdom Death Monster is a game in which you play a village of warriors in a post-apocalyptic hellscape, and every now and again some horrible monster will emerge, and you and the other warriors from the village have to go out and kill the monster. That's kind of the game. When you kill the monster, you harvest a bunch of things from it that allow you to upgrade your village and upgrade your characters and stuff. But as often as not, you get killed, and then I guess you have to roll a new character. I don't really know exactly how it works. This game was famous because it's a game for modelers. It comes with really elaborate models that you can put together in Paint. And some of them are extremely grotesque. It looks like a fun game. I don't want to pay the money you'd have to pay to get it, because it's a hobby game, a modeling hobby game. So it's like $400 or something. But if someone had it out and said, Brendan, you want to try this? I think I'd try it, because it's got enough positive buzz that I think it sounds like a thing I'd like to try. That's Kingdom Death Monster, number 62 in the Board Game Geek ratings. So what are your favorite cooperative games? I know I have a bunch that did not make this review today, so I'll have to think about, do I want to do a follow-up episode later where I talk about my favorite co-ops, or is it you already heard of them? You probably have. Anyhow, if you agree or disagree with any of the things I said, you have a cooperative game you want to call out, head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode format. And there's a helicopter going overhead. I want to say thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.